Those screen rolls.
Rodney Hood at 17. There's a positive. Nuggets, though, take game number 1. Here's Coach Malone.
Coach, game 1 is always pivotal. How nice does it feel to get a game? You had a tough one here 2 nights ago, and then you come back and play this well. I thought it says a lot about this team's resiliency.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Obviously, Saturday night, an emotional high, winning a game 7. And, that was probably my biggest concern about tonight. Obviously, worried about guarding them, but how would we react from that emotional hangover? And I thought the guys did a pretty good job. Obviously, defensively, we have to be a lot better moving forward. Defense was not part of the game from either team tonight, but we were able to get enough stops. And Jamal, Nicole, and Paul were terrific. And guys off the bench like Malik and Mason also stepped up. You use the word resiliency, and that's very appropriate. 12-1 second nights of back-to-backs, that shows you who our team was in the regular season. And tonight, that's kind of what this game felt like. So proud of our guys for showing up.
You scored 90 points and 2 3-pointers in Game 7. Tonight was a completely different story. Do you have a preference?
Wins. Yeah, I mean, for me, if we win 90-88 or we win 121-113, obviously winning is the most important analytical stat out there. But I did not like our defense tonight, especially in that first quarter. They had 18 points in the paint. They found the roll man time and time again for easy layups. We were down the floor on their 3-point shooters. So, we got the win. And when you get a win and you know you didn't play your best basketball, that's a good feeling. But I think everyone in the locker room knows that we have to be a lot more locked in on that end of the floor to try to get a second win.
You mentioned the pick and roll. I know you got to watch film. Stood out to you about where you guys were struggling with that, particularly in the first half?
Yeah, helping on the roller. You have to give so much attention to Dame and CJ. So we're telling our guards try to be into and over because their ability to shoot the pull-up 3, and you want your bigs up at the level to give help. That means the back line's got to help on that roll. And first half, they had 12 points to the roller, which is too many. We were there a few times, but we were there. We weren't physical enough. You've got to be there with a presence. I thought third quarter our defense was pretty good. Then fourth quarter, those guys are going to be in attack mode. So we'll watch the film. We'll clean things up, obviously, as will they. And I expect game 2 to be another battle.
When you go from defending an offense like the Spurs last series to one like this with just so many more pick and rolls and whatnot, is there like a mental, adjustment period at all that guys have to go through before, it kind of clicks when you go from one extreme to another?
Yeah, it's a completely different game and opponent, from Derek White and DeMar DeRozan, who are not known as 3-point shooters, to guarding CJ and Damian Lillard, who are very efficient 3-point shooters. So your mindset has to change there, and that alone, the personnel. But now I think going into this series in the first round, Damian Lillard was averaging 33 pick and rolls per game. That's a crazy number. So, your bigs are under constant duress, constant pressure to guard and contain, as are your smalls. So we had some good moments, but, once again, Harrison, we'll watch the film. We'll try to figure out what we can do better and maybe some different looks that we can give them.
Nicole had 15 in the third quarter. You mentioned the third quarter defense, but is that where you really felt offense started getting into a groove and maybe momentum swung right there?
Well, that first quarter, I think the offense was grooving all over the place. Their offense, our offense, neither team could stop one another. But I thought in the third quarter the difference was, and I kept on telling our guys in the huddles, once we get our defense into the game, we're going to be okay. And the first team that actually gets defense into the game will be the team that wins. So third quarter, much better defense, and our offense was able to play at a high level, and that carried over into the fourth quarter. And, with those guys, that backcourt, they're never out of a game. So the clock is moving slow. But again, I thought Jamal Murray, 8 assists, no turnovers, 1 turnover rather. Nicole had 6 assists, 37 points, 9 rebounds, and Paul Millsap was a problem for them. And they started double teaming him in the post. But hell of a win, way to start it off. San Antonio, we gave away game 1. At least we started this series off right by winning at home.
You mentioned Paul Millsap getting doubled. It seemed like you forced that issue. They doubled him. You then started working the pick and roll. They started making adjustments on that. You went back to Paul, got Gary out. Is there a point now where versus the Spurs series, you guys have come to understand how to counter what the defense is throwing at you better?
Yeah, and we've seen so many things, like with Nikola, he's seen every conceivable coverage this season in the playoffs. With Paul, we felt we had something going into the series, and they had to react to it, so they started double teaming, to your point, Matt. Even with Jamal and Nikola in that two-man game, that's really hard to guard, just like it's hard to guard Cantor and Damian Lillard. So yes, we feel no matter how teams are guarding us, if we play with pace, we space the floor correctly, we can counter whatever the adjustment is, because we're a very unselfish team that moves the ball. And anytime any defense wants to put two defenders on the ball, somebody's open, and we find the open man, and hopefully you make the shot.
In Game 7, I think you played Joker about 108 minutes.
Close to it.
Yeah, 4 minutes left in the first half. I think he turns to the bench and basically says, I'm tired, or you took a timeout right then anyway. But he got stronger as the game went along. Explain that for me. Yep.
Well, I think it's just a young player understanding the stage, the moment. Once again, I played him 41.5 minutes tonight. It's a lot. It's just 8 games now where not just the minutes, Kiz, but everything that is being asked of him within it, offensively and now defensively. So we try to mix up our matchups, put him on Aminu so maybe somebody else could guard the pick and roll a little bit. But I think it comes down to Nikola embracing the moment, and he's showing, maybe he's a lot tougher than any of us thought. But to play that kind of minutes and to play at that level is really remarkable for such a young player going through it for the first time. And all season long, you've heard me say it, but we never use fatigue as an excuse. We never use any of that. We're a no-excuse team, and I think Nicola's a great example of that.
But Jamal had 8 assists and 1 turnover. Just what have you seen from him in terms of his development as a playmaker, and where he's at now compared to when he took over as starting full-time point guard?
I think a lot of times Jamal and most people would think of him just as a scorer. And, many times I remind him that he's more than just a scorer. He's not a specialist. He can impact the game in so many ways, playmaking, defense, rebounding, whatever it might be. And the way that San Antonio played him and pick and rolls like they're playing him in this series, he's got great opportunities to find that pocket pass to Nikola, or get downhill and make that little mid-range shot. And those two have that great on-court chemistry and synergy where they play off of each other so well. So, yeah, he's definitely grown in that area, understanding, making the right play, the good pass, not forcing it, not jumping in the air to make a pass. So, once again, we knew coming into this series we had a great assist-turnover ratio as a team. But for Jamal, your starting point guard, to go 8-1 is phenomenal with 23 points.
Yeah, Mike, Lillard didn't really get off any of his logo threes tonight. How much of an emphasis did you put on your pickup points, and how pleased with how well you guys executed that?
Yeah, that was a really big point of emphasis. And I thought Torrey Craig, who was on him for the lion's share of the game, did a phenomenal job. Somewhat of a catch-22, because when you pick a guy up over half court, they started setting screens up the floor, trying to unleash Damian downhill. But I think what Torrey provides us as a defender is he has the ability to maybe get hit, but what we call a rear view pursuit. He stays in it. He doesn't die on screens. He rolls off, he pursues, and tries to get that late contest, or he tries to square that ball up. But, it wasn't just a game winner, series winner that Damian hit. I think he had 8 threes that were, 30 or more feet away from the basket, which is crazy when you think about it. So, yes, we talked about it, and I thought our guys did a pretty good job of taking those away. And now we just got to give him different looks in the pick and rolls, because you can't give him a steady diet of anything because he gets into a rhythm. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Coach Malone, talking about Jokic, we wax poetic with some pretty pictures, coaches.
Well, when you can start with that as a 7-footer, that obviously makes the floor really big. You have to play him now closing Cantor to his ability to shoot, which then allows him to get to the front of the rim.
His ability to make plays in the pocket, both attacking the basket, which he's doing more of now, and to play make for others, is very unique. Active on the glass, showing his effort, intensity. The word that strikes me when you watch him play tonight's game is determination.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just not going to lose his basketball game. That's the look he had in his eyes. That's what Coach Malone is talking about with him. And, they got him a W.
There have been a lot of times during the year where you would see that kind of that mouse in the house scenario, or shooting over a chair, or, hey, he should go after him here, and he would be passive, not because he was afraid, but because his instincts are as a facilitator. And it's probably been a lot of conversation, you guys know this as coaches, where they've needed to continue, hey, look, you could go to the basket, because with his footwork, which is something we were sitting there marveling at in the back, it's ridiculous to watch Embiid in that first game, and I know he didn't feel well, but the biggest play of the game, and then to go watch Jokic, guys at this size with that kind of agility is crazy, and both of them have it in spades.
And I think for Jokic, man, playing 7 games in the playoffs against the San Antonio Spurs, a team coached by Greg Popovich, the amount of adjusting from game to game and the things that he had to pick up on really are helping him in his development.
Blazers go down 0-1 with the loss in Denver. Here's Coach Terry Stotts.
Questions for Coach? Coach, you've seen them over here. You've seen them a lot throughout the year, but did they bring anything that was surprising to you tonight?
Not really. After watching them, playing them 4 times and watching them 7 games against San Antonio, they're did most things that they've been doing all season.
They got 23 points off of 18 turnovers. How important was that, and how much was that their defense on the turnovers?
I thought the 4 turnovers we had at the end of the first half really took away some of our momentum that we had. It's usually a little bit of both. I thought we had some soft plays, soft turnovers, especially at the end of the half. The other ones, driving into the lane, just a couple of offensive fouls. But there's no question that the turnovers they hurt us. It was a good offensive game but I thought the turnovers really made a difference.
Terry, how happy were you with the way Ennis played, considering he had a bad shoulder?
Ennis was terrific. He, very efficient, finishing around the basket, playing through the shoulder injury. I couldn't have asked any more from him. He was terrific.
CJ was big in the first half, and Dame obviously had a huge game no matter what they did. With them putting some of their lesser defenders on guys like Mo and Aminu, is it important for those guys to maybe get a higher usage to make them pay a little bit for that?
We got to take the shots that are there. We shot over 50%. We shot 38% from 3. Other than the turnovers, our offense was pretty good. So those guys in particular take the opportunities that are there, and they weren't there tonight. We could look to get them some more shots, take advantage of some matchups on the post, but really, I have a hard time faulting our offense other than the turnovers.
Jokic was a big factor, obviously. Terry, what can you do against him defensively?
Well, that's part of a series. We'll be watching the video and try and figure something else. All right, thanks.
Terry Stotts hoping his team could get even after Nikola. Yet another fantastic game. More coming from Denver.